The Goat House is back with updated playoff and Super Bowl predictions as we are in week 14 of the NFL season. I predicted every single remaining game of the season to come up with these playoff seedings, and I'm going to predict playoffs and the Super Bowl in this video, and we'll update these once we have that actual playoff field at the end of the season. We'll have full playoff coverage, but let's take a look at my updated predictions. Starting with the NFC teams, I'm predicting to make the playoffs. Again, we are currently in week 14, and I predicted every remaining regular season game to come up with the seeding, the teams and the seedings here. I have the Lions holding on to that 1 seed, the Eagles getting the 2, but things can get interesting there. There's a scenario where you flip those because the Lions are starting to get a little beat up. The remaining portion of their schedule is much tougher than the Eagles. We'll keep the Lions at the 1, have the Eagles at the 2, but that's a battle for that 1 seed. This is where things get really interesting. The NFC South and the NFC West up for grabs here. Buccaneers versus Falcons. The Falcons are currently struggling. The Bucs, I like the remaining portion of their schedule. Only had them losing once. If they lose more than that, then the Falcons could get it. If the Falcons play the Vikings this week, that's a big game. If the Falcons win that, then I'm going to be wanting to predict the Falcons win the NFC South. So things are tough. I think the Bucs can get rolling at the end of the year, kind of like last year. They kind of got that defense playing much better. The pass defense, it was awful last year, kind of got better as the year went on in the playoffs. Could we see similarities there? In the NFC West, I mean, any of the 4 teams could win it. There's so many different scenarios. The Rams play the Bills this week, but a bigger one. The Seahawks play the Cardinals. 49ers definitely can come back. I was playing through multiple different scenarios. I just went with the team I trust the most when it comes to a late season playoff push and just being a playoff team. I'm gonna trust the Rams finishing the job here. They could lose to I have them losing to the Bills this week. They could win that game, but then still getting the spot. But there'll be some very important games. They struggled with the Cardinals last time they played. That'll be a big game when they play. And then interesting one, I was surprised I ended up with the Packers ahead of the Vikings because the Vikings seem like the better team right now, and they're definitely ahead. But I went through every game. And I like the Packers' remaining portion of their schedule. They will play the Vikings again. I kind of had them splitting, so I think the Packers will win the next one, but the Vikings could win that, and that could flip these. But I actually have the Packers winning out. They just lost to the Lions on Thursday Night Football. I have them winning out, and that's kind of what they do at the end of last year. It's kind of part of the prediction here that they'll get going at the right time. They played pretty well against the Lions. Where the Vikings, I have them ripping off 3 more in a row. The Falcons, and they could lose that. The Bears, they could lose that. The Seattle Seahawks, they could lose that. I have them winning those, and I have them losing to the Packers and Lions to end it, which would be tough. I originally was going to have them beating the Lions, splitting in that division, battle, obviously, but it actually came down to the Lions needing to win that game at home to secure that 1 seed, and I'm like, I don't think I really see them losing that. So that was the deciding factor. So the tiebreaker between the Packers and the Vikings, 13-4, I was surprised, went to the Packers. So they actually got the 5 seed. Vikings got the 6. And the 7 is kind of up for grabs. I kind of want to see more from the Commanders. Of course, they're on a bye, but they started to get figured out a little bit, which really wasn't too much of a surprise looking at the past Cliff Kingsbury's offenses and just history with the new dual threat quarterbacks. It takes a little bit of time for teams to game plan for that. So they started to struggle, but they are coming off a good win. It was against the Titans. They should get Lattimore back in the mix soon. I like their schedule for the most part, so I had them getting that 7 seed, but teams that I definitely could see making it, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, and the Niners. All 4 of those teams have a chance to win their division, even though they are in different divisions. So those are my playoff teams as of right now, and things could change. Wild card round predictions, of course, the Lions get a bye. That's why it's big to get that 1 seed. I have the Eagles beating the Commanders. It'd be the 3rd time they're going to play, so because it's a NFC East divisional game there. And the Vikings go to Tampa. I have them beating the Bucs. I think the Vikings are the better team. I think they'd be very successful through the air in that game. That'd probably be a higher scoring game. I like the Vikings in that one. And the Rams have that experience. They could be very sneaky in the playoffs. But I think the Packers are the better team, even though they're going to LA. And this is that time where the Packers start to heat up, in the playoffs. Matt LaFleur is such a good game planner in the playoffs, and that's been proven over the years. And this is Jordan Love's 2nd rodeo here in the playoffs. They won last year, so I would take them over the Rams. But that would be a hell of a game. Another one that'd probably be a shootout as well. The Vikings game and the Packers game there, but those two teams coming out on top in the wild card round, along with the Philadelphia Eagles. 3 NFC North teams make the divisional round of the playoffs. Pretty wild, but the Lions, Vikings, I'm going to trust the Lions much more. Off the bye, at home, into the better team. Defensively, I think pretty even. in this one, but I'm going to trust the Lions offense much more. I'm going to trust Goff a little bit more than Sam Darnold there. We'll take the Lions in that one. And then Eagles-Packers would be a really, really good game, really tough game to pick. I'll take the Eagles, who are hot right now. They're at home in this game. The Packers, though, I'd say it's a team to watch. Very late season, into the playoffs, starting to heat up. They're usually really good around them, but game planning under LaFleur, game planning in the playoffs. So the Packers could be sneakier than everyone already realizes. They're already starting to play better football. Eagles are super hot right now, playing great on both sides of the ball. This is in Philly. We'll take the Eagles. Some good news for Packers fans here, though. Usually, my preseason predictions are very accurate, and they're more accurate than my in-season predictions, and I was all over the Packers in that. So, because, again, watch for them to heat up, but hard to not take the Eagles at home. I trust both offenses in this game, but the Eagles' defense is playing elite right now, and the Packers would actually figure out how to get some offense going in this game, but just looking at both sides of the ball, combining, the balance of the Eagles, I'm going to trust them a little bit more. Packers a little beat up right now. Could they get healthier, or is that going to be a thing in the secondary on defense, especially in the playoffs? We'll trust the Eagles a little bit more in this one. But again, I was all over the Packers in the preseason prediction, which usually ends up being accurate. But those are my predictions for the divisional round. Lions versus Eagles in the NFC Championship game prediction that I have right now in Week 14. This would be a hell of a game. I mean, think about the running game from these teams. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery versus Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. And both teams obviously can throw the ball as well. Both teams can play defense. This would be a hell of a game in Detroit. The difference between the teams, I think they both like to gamble on fourth down. The Eagles' defense stands out in this one, how good they are playing right now. I do trust the Lions would be able to move the ball on them, maybe better than anyone else could, but I do trust the Eagles could move the ball on the Lions' defense as well. Something I'm looking at right now, how will it be when we get to this time? The Lions are a little beat up right now. I mean, a lot of teams are beat up right now. Will they be missing Aiden Hutchinson more in this scenario? In a game like this, the gambles that the Lions do with a fourth down, they kind of usually get away with, like last year until the NFC title game. Would they work against an Eagles defense? That's kind of my concern. They have to work every week, as if they blow up in your face one time, then your season's over in the playoffs. So they have to continue to work here. And how will they hold up against that Eagles defense? That's a big question for me here, as well as the Lions' amount of predictable man coverage. Jalen Hurts, I think, would love that, especially with his legs. So I am actually feeling the Eagles in this game. Going to trust them to get the job done in that matchup. And that matchup favors them a little bit more just because the significant difference between the two teams that are juggernauts, very similar. The Eagles defense is what stands out in the Lions without Aiden Hutchinson when it's going to matter most. So give me the Philadelphia Eagles today, right now, going to the Super Bowl, coming out of the NFC. Now time for my AFC playoff predictions. I got the Bills getting that 1 seed. They're looking really solid right now. Big game coming up against the Rams. Chiefs, only one loss. They're a good team, but everyone's kind of wondering, they're not playing that great right now. They could be better. I expect them to get going around playoff time, in the playoffs, but they already have they're good enough already, have a good enough record. Steelers look really solid this year. They're playing great defense and they're playing great offense under Russell Wilson. This feels like a different Steelers team compared to the ones that just sneak in the playoffs. Do they belong? Then they lose. Feels like a much better team. And the Texans, who aren't playing their best ball right now, but I know they have more in them. They have the players to be better. They have the formula to be better. So they could be a sneaky team if they heat up at the right time. It's kind of what it's about. Every year there's a team that just heats up at the right time. All of a sudden something clicks at the end of the year into the playoffs, and then they're just much better in the playoffs. Could it be a team like that? The Ravens getting to 5. The 5-6 is interesting. Ravens, Chargers. The Chargers have a much easier rest of their schedule. So if they win out or just lose one, the Ravens, struggle to beat the Steelers in the next, which is very possible the next outing. The Chargers, even though the Ravens have the head-to-head, could have one more win than the Ravens, because the Chargers do have an easier schedule, and actually get that 5 seed. So that was something I was kind of looking at, a couple different scenarios. And we'll go with the Broncos at 7. The Broncos are heating up. Bo Nix is heating up. They're playing pretty decent on both sides of the ball, even though the last time we saw them, they were struggling on defense, but they're a little beat up, but a lot of teams are beat up. Will they get healthier? They should. The Dolphins just missed. Now, I think the Dolphins are for sure worthy of a playoff team, but they need to pretty much win out. I was looking at the scenarios, which they could. They have a couple tough ones, but Texans, Niners. They have to win out. I had them losing one, and they also need kind of help from the Broncos to lose. But the Broncos will play the Colts, and if the Colts win that, the Colts can get in instead of the Broncos or the Dolphins. So that Colts-Broncos game coming up is actually going to be massive, absolutely massive. The Bengals, they have the talent on offense to do it, but they can't close out games. They can't play defense. But I think the Dolphins are definitely very, very worthy. But based on how the rest of the season should play out, go with the Broncos. But the Broncos I still want to learn more about because it seems like they absolutely obliterated the NFC South teams, and all the other teams they kind of play close with. They usually beat. Does feel like they're getting better, but it's still, how are they going to finish? How are they going to play against the better teams here? So that's kind of the big question with them, but I'm very much impressed with Bo Nix, so they get into the playoffs here in this scenario. Wild card round, I'll go Chiefs over Broncos. They still have to play each other in the regular season one more time, or the last one the Broncos are about to win. The Chiefs blocked a field goal, so that game could be interesting. I do think, playoff atmosphere, rookie quarterback going to Kansas City. I think it's a whole different ballgame, so I'm confident with the Chiefs in that one. We'll go Steelers over Chargers. That could be a fun defensive game. They played each other during the regular season. You should have no takeaways from that one, really, for the playoff game if they match up, because it was a really good game. The Chargers got really, really beat up down the stretch of that game, so can't really have any major takeaways, but I do feel like the Steelers have gotten significantly better since then. Obviously, rolling with Russell Wilson, and the Chargers' passing game seems to have gotten better as well. So it should be a whole different game, but I will take the Steelers. I'll trust them at home in that one. And the Chargers got to prove me more. When they play better teams, they don't look nearly as good. They're a really good team, but they've also done their damage on having kind of a weaker schedule. And then Texans-Ravens, I'll trust the Ravens more in this one, even though it's in Houston, a rematch of last year's playoff game, but this one in Houston. But yeah, it's a tough one because the Texans are really struggling right now. Like, the offensive line doesn't look right. Stroud doesn't look right. The defense is starting to struggle, which is surprising. They kind of rely on Mixon getting things going, but they have the formula. They have the recipe. They have the quarterback. They're supposed to have a better offensive line. They have the running back. They have Nico Collins, Tank Dell. They have tight ends. They have a good defensive coach. They have defensive playmakers. So I could see a scenario where they click at the end of the year and then they're a serious threat in the playoffs. It is certainly not showing right now. So they're a sneaky one, but I'll trust the Ravens more in this one. And again, there was a scenario where I had the Ravens at 6 and the Chargers at 5, just because the difference in schedule the rest of the way. And that obviously can change some things. The Ravens do not match up well with the Steelers over the years, it seems, and right now. So they would go to Pittsburgh, and Texans-Chargers would be a good game. I would probably have Pittsburgh winning, and I would have Houston being the Chargers if that was the scenario. It's a very realistic scenario there. Divisional round gets interesting at the top here. Bills and Ravens. In Buffalo, the Bills are hot. The Ravens are inconsistent right now, so maybe you would think the Buffalo Bills. And some of you thinking kind of what I'm getting at. The Bills only have 2 losses this year. One, they got ripped by the Baltimore Ravens, and that it was in Baltimore, primetime football, but this is the worst possible matchup for the Buffalo Bills, because the Bills are a juggernaut team, but the one weakness they have is against teams that are really good running the football and really good holding a lead and controlling the clock. The Ravens, that is their game. So the matchup definitely favors Baltimore here. That game was in Baltimore, and it was early in the year. And the Ravens right now, it feels like things have to go absolutely perfect for them to win games, and they kind of can blow leads as well. While the Bills are heating up, and they're actually getting healthier right now. Having Matt Milano back, they should be able to stop the run a little bit better. So the matchup favors the Ravens. I'm going to trust the Bills in Buffalo. And we've seen several games where the Bills just can't stop the run, but they have this lead, and they're just too explosive, and they make plays where it didn't even matter. So I'll take the Bills. They would rather play anybody else but the Ravens in the playoffs. I'll tell you that right now. But I'll have them escaping that one. Chiefs-Steelers is interesting. They'll actually play each other in a few weeks, but today, who would I pick in that game today? I would actually maybe, based on how they're playing right now, probably side towards the Steelers. When it comes down to it, divisional round of the playoffs in Kansas City, we're talking about playoff football where it's just different. The game plan is different. The players are different. The elite, usually quarterbacks, matter a lot more than the regular season. I'm going to trust the Chiefs, but the Steelers could be really sneaky in this game. This seems like a different Steelers team in the past. It's not your typical sneak into the playoffs, don't win a playoff game. This is a team that is a sneaky good contender here, but I will take the Chiefs So we have the Bills and the Chiefs, classic AFC Championship game. And we just saw those teams play a couple weeks ago. The Bills took care of business, but it could be a whole different game in the playoffs. How will the health of these teams be? Specifically looking at both teams, but the Chiefs receiver situation, Hollywood Brown obviously could come back. And then do they have DJ Humphries more in the mix? I would expect by then. That's a major upgrade at the left tackle position, so that could actually help the Chiefs get better. The Bills were actually beat up last time they played the Chiefs, and last time they played the Chiefs in the playoffs, it felt like for a while, back and forth last year. The Bills are going to win it, and nope, the Chiefs win the game. They take control. Imagine if the Bills were actually semi-healthy in that game, and they're getting healthier right now, but will that hold up? It's a team that has bad luck going into the playoffs with the health there, so those are some things to monitor, but I like the way the Bills are playing football right now. Don't love the way the Chiefs are playing, but I know they're going to get better. I like that the Buffalo Bills are trending in the right direction when it comes to health compared to how they normally are. I will take the Buffalo Bills beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, going to the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles as my current prediction. It's in Week 14. Obviously, things can change. And then there is that Super Bowl matchup that I'm currently predicting between the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles. I will say every year, my preseason prediction not only ends up being very accurate, but more accurate than my updated predictions. So if you didn't see that one, I had the Chiefs and the Packers in the Super Bowl. And obviously we could see teams like the Lions are definitely in the conversation as well, among other teams, to make the Super Bowl. This is my current feeling. I guess maybe the flaw is maybe we're basing it off too much of how teams are currently playing. Again, teams could start to heat up or get cold, get injured, get healthy at the wrong time, and that definitely could change some things. But this would be a really, really fun matchup. I'd say right now that there's a clear-cut two MVP candidates, and it is Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley, and they'd be facing off in a game like this. Two teams a reason that they're here in this prediction is they're pretty damn balanced. I love the offense of both these teams. I love the defense of both these teams. I'd slightly side towards the Eagles' defense. Offense is pretty much a battle. The Eagles' running game maybe slightly, even though the Bills' running game is much better. But then Jalen Hurts can ball, but Josh Allen being that big-time quarterback. So I think it makes it kind of even, maybe side with the quarterback a little bit on that one. But again, kind of what we talked about with the Bills when like the Ravens matchup, that the only thing they do wrong, is stopping the run. And the Eagles are the best in football running the football. I mean, Saquon Barkley coming in there against the Buffalo Bills. That and Jalen Hurts running the football, that could be a problem. Again, the Bills are getting healthier. They get Matt Milano back now. They could get better. They should get better stopping the run, but the Eagles are a different animal there. What is the Eagles' weakness right now? Again, these teams got to nitpick with their weaknesses. The Eagles start a little slow, right? They're actually dead last the first quarter in points. Now, is that going to hold up throughout the rest of the year? We'll see, but it can't happen in the playoffs when playing the best of the best. You can't have a slow start. You can't expect to come back or win in the fourth quarter against all these teams in the playoffs. So I think that it's two really good teams with one flaw. The Buffalo Bills, again, my flaw on them is stopping the run, which could be a problem when you don't stop the run. It's pretty tough to win championship football. But there's been several games this year where they couldn't really stop the run. I mean, the most recent one against the Niners, and there's several others. They couldn't really stop the run, but they just make plays on both sides of the ball, and they just get a lead, and they don't let it go. They're really good at not letting that lead go, and that's why the Eagles would have to start super good in this game. So I actually predict that's what it's going to come down to. In the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, I mean, we got two good quarterbacks here, but I look at Josh Allen versus Saquon Barkley, the stars of star-filled teams here. The playoffs, the quarterback matters more. My prediction is going to be with Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills right now, but they do have to stop the run better, and they have to stay healthy, unlike past years. But it's a tough prediction right now. It's a tough prediction because it's kind of going against what I believe in. You have to stop the run to win championship football. I do think the Bills will get better at that. I could see the Chiefs here. They're going to get hot at the right time. Adding DJ Humphries was huge. I could see the Lions or the Packers here out of the NFC. That's kind of where I'm at. Like those five teams, I don't see myself predicting anyone else. Again, teams could get hot at the right time. Texans could be sneaky. Steelers could be sneaky. The Ravens could get hot at the right time. The NFC, the Vikings have been playing really good. It's just hard. As a Vikings fan, it's hard for me to see them getting over that hump, even though they're playing very, very well right now. The Rams have that experience, so they could be sneaky. They might not even be in. What if the Niners sneak in, and it's like, watch out for them. So it's tough. I typically think that predicting from the preseason is easier than predicting during the season because we got games coming up this weekend. Like if this game changes how I feel, it goes a different way than I thought, then it changes the seeding and it changes the matchups, it changes everything. So I think it's tough to predict this time of the year. But yeah, of course, we'll have the full playoff coverage, full playoff round by round predictions, along with the bracket prediction right when the playoff field is released, as we know at the end of the season. So, but join us for our weekly pick show, our score predictions, our best bets, locks video, power rankings. We got you guys covered with all kinds of NFL coverage. So like, subscribe, to notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.